He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, it's Hawaiian Shirt Friday, and I've got my third and final Hawaiian shirt on. You guys can see this on the stream. So this is a long-running joke at Breitbart News Daily, and we are here on the Alex Marlow Show trying to keep it alive. But you guys are going to have to email me some Hawaiian shirt recommendations. Maybe I'll send you a mailing address. You can send me any as a gift if you want. But I gotta staff up. I used to have more Hawaiian shirts around, but we do these closet purges in my house, and I only was able to retain 3. 2 are of high quality. You saw those the previous 2 Fridays. This one is not of high quality, but it matches all of my children aside from, I think, Duchess Jr. I think everyone else has a lemon-themed Hawaiian shirt. This is what we got. You guys are stuck with this. And we're going to have a super serious show. So I want to make sure I have the most ironic shirt, depending on the seriousness of the show. But we cannot get started. We have to bless the show. We have to christen it with our ceremonial clip of Joe of the Jungle. Here he is.
So let's
Joe
preserve
Biden.
this secret place for our time and forever, for the benefit of all humanity. Thank you very, very much.
And there he goes. The man who would be the most powerful person on earth in the United States. Missy was noting how his glasses are crooked. You get something different every time, like your favorite movie or your favorite book. You go through it a couple times and you just get a little bit more. A lot to talk about on the show. We'll give you some Trump cabinet updates. I'm thrilled to say I don't have to give you any updates on World War III, nuclear war. Nothing interesting worth your attention. If you want some minutia, Breitbart.com is always the place. We'll give you the latest, but nothing big on that front. Thank God, literally. And but a lot of Trump cabinet updates to come. But I want to start with mentioning Lakin Riley's murderer, found guilty, illegal alien, found guilty of all counts of murdering her in Georgia. This is just a brutal, brutal murder. 22-year-old nursing student in Athens, Georgia. He'd been released from the southern border into the United States by who else? Joe Biden, before he wandered off into the jungle, and Kamala Harris, the border czar, their administration. A guy named Jose Antonio Ibarra. And what we learned from the last couple of weeks is that he was not just an illegal alien and had no business being here, but was part of the Tren de Aragua gang. It's been taking over all sorts of our cities. They have a presence in all of our cities. They're famous for taking over those apartment buildings in Colorado, but it goes so far beyond that. But it's just noteworthy that this was an open and shut case, very clear. This was someone we were told that he was only released because we had a run on our detention facilities, which is just not true. There's tons of space. John Binder, who's our resident immigration expert, among a couple at Breitbart News, he's noted this time and again that the DHS cited his release into the interior with parole as a part of a lack of availability for space in our detention facilities, even though we have 8,000 detention beds available, or at least they were at the time that he was released. So that was clearly a lie, and no one from the Department of Homeland Security would testify. Alejandro Mayorkas was asked to testify. He refused. And so just a couple months before his murder, he was released on the Employment Authorization Document, EAD, with a U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, it's USCIS. And so he was approved in December 2023, and she was murdered 2 months later. So amazing stuff. He'd already been arrested in September of 2023 for acting in a manner that could injure a child. He was not prosecuted. The arrest was expunged. He was released on some technicality that the open borders left that runs our country wanted, goes on to murder this beautiful young woman, and he will live throughout the rest of his natural life because he does not get the death penalty. And whoever installed this humanitarian parole program, which has enabled sex trafficking, it's enabled fraud. We have a huge comprehensive report on this at Breitbart from Christian Caruso, who's our reporter who for many years was reporting from Venezuela for us. But he's noting the House Judiciary report showing evidence of widespread people who are released from the program that have committed fraud and have been involved in sex trafficking, perhaps up to tens of thousands of these people with records. because that's the catch and release policy. It's what it is. You get here, you announce your intentions to seek asylum or to have some sort of a legitimate reason to be here, and you're released into the country until things get sorted out. And do you have any confidence any of these people are being deported? This is why there's such a clamoring for mass deportations. But just note that this is so reflexive of where the left is, what they view at this time in our life. They view that every murderer should be allowed to live, every single one. So Lakin Riley's murderer, guilty as sin, convicted in a left-wing area, and he will get to live. He shouldn't have even been here. This murder should never have happened. Him harassing of the child should never have happened, whatever that was. And he comes back, murders a young person, has her life taken from her, destroys so many people who Lakin Riley had touched in her life. Family members, etc. Friends will be scarred forever. And he gets to live. I don't understand that. With the left, they could probably rationalize that we on the right, we don't necessarily think every murderer should get killed, but we also don't think everyone should live. And their viewpoint is everyone should live. And just know that with moral clarity, that who is that more kind to? Is that more kind to this monster, or is it more kind to the Tren de Aragua gang? Or is it more kind to the family and friends of Lakin Riley who will never have that closure? Sad, very sad that a sad story gets a little bit worse, and I got to bring this to you on a Friday. But it's also noteworthy that the prosecutor or the person who really presides over, I forget the exact title of who this falls under, whose jurisdiction this is. But the bottom line is the person who made it so that the death penalty was not sought was lost their election and will be gone in January. So if this trial had been delayed a couple months, a Republican is coming in or a conservative, and potentially the judge could have brought a death penalty case in this case. And now we can't. And so he'll live forever. And occasionally there'll be hearings and we'll have to think about all this stuff again. So let it be a reminder to you of how evil the cartels are, how evil these gangs can be, what they're willing to do to Americans, and why we should have a zero tolerance policy for people who cross the border illegally. We just can't. We can't have them here. And yet we see people on the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris side doing everything they can to try to import more people. Javier Becerra, who runs Health and Human Services, says that we do the best we can, but this is in light of the HHS losing contact with thousands of migrant children, and all he can offer us, we do the best we can. So an inspector general for the HHS revealed that there are thousands of unaccompanied alien children, UACs, that have been released to adult sponsors in the United States. I was just talking to John Binder about this at the Breitbart Fight Club today for my Breitbart Confidential interview. For those of you who have premium membership, you guys get that. And asking him why. Why is Health and Human Services, how are they responsible? Well, they're involved in checking in some of these children, and then they're supposed to match them with family members. But it doesn't have to be parents. And there's a lot of cases that are made that they're just getting matched with people who aren't even extended family members. People are just claiming these children, and the children go with them. So I ask again, who is this kind to? Is this kind to the families, or is it actually abuse? Is it actually importation and chaos of people who ought not be here, and on the humanitarian strife that causes? So literally, children come here unaccompanied and they just get released to whoever. 320,000 migrant children, according to Republicans who have been investigating this. Tom Tiffany, Republican from Wisconsin, asked Becerra about this. He cited 320,000 children unaccounted for. You know how insane that is? We run our country this way. In the meantime, MSNBC has likened Lakin Riley's murderer, has treated him like the victim here. MSNBC has gotten themselves in a little bit of hot water here, because they referred to this as a political controversy. There's nothing controversial about this. They put out an analysis saying Lakin Riley's killer never stood a chance. For all the political controversy surrounding Jose Ibarra, the outcome of this trial was never in doubt. They're framing it up, this guy, Danny Cevallos, MSNBC legal analyst, is framing it as though this murderer was denied some sort of a fair trial. He had the intent to rape her, by the way, also, and had peeping Tom stuff going on. This guy's a real perv, disgusting guy. And he gets basically sympathy from MSNBC, the network that Comcast Universal is going to have to spin off because doing so badly. Again, this connects very deeply with my research that I put out in Breaking the News, my first book, New York Times bestseller, about how the establishment media is not just that they're liberal, it's that they're corporatist and that they're there to preserve the status quo and to protect the corporations. However, when you just lie to your audience and you've cratering ratings and you're very expensive and you got prima donna hosts, you only want to work one day a week, then all of a sudden you're not actually doing a service to your corporation by continuing to house these networks. These networks are keeping the public uninformed. MSNBC is chief among them. If you read my research in that book on the way they dealt with the Russia hoax, you would think it's only lunatics who run that place. They're not just lunatics also. They're all Democrat donors, et cetera. But when you read stuff like Rachel Maddow is going to take a pay cut from MSNBC, she's taking a $5 million pay cut. That sounds like a lot. Well, that's from $30 million to $25 million a year. So she's going to get $25 million a year to host one night a week. She does some specials for them, but she really works one day a week. She just lies to her audience. Total lunatic. She's a faux intellectual. She acts like she's smart and she knows what she's talking about, and she's one of the biggest fraudsters on all news. And she has $25 million a year to do one show a week. So that's how MSNBC is going to clean things up, because her brand is just too big. It's just too difficult of a time to blow her out and save the 25 mil. What a signal that would send, and say, we're not dealing with this anymore. We just can't. It's long-term. It's not going to work. But there's apparently huge internal strife going on over there because Joe Scarborough normalizing the Nazi Trump, the fascist. After Trump's win, he went down to Mar-a-Lago to try to save, I guess, some level of dignity there, because he's going to have to cover him. So why not be in communication with Trump? I mean, it makes sense from a news perspective. Oh, yeah, they call them fascists and stuff. Nonstop. Man, well, it couldn't happen to worse people. Really couldn't. I will note, Alejandro Mayorkas, Christopher Wray, they were supposed to publicly testify for Lakin Riley, the Lakin Riley case. Never did it. So it's considered a slap in the face to the family, despite the conviction a couple of days ago. Biden-Harris' DHS is going to funnel 65,000 more foreign workers into blue-collar jobs. I've got my close eye on this at Breitbart News. This is going to be a huge focus for us over the next couple of months. The Democrats are going to try to get in as many people as humanly possible for January the 20th. And Trump cannot interfere, or else I guarantee you they'll impeach him for it. So they're going to try to normalize as many people, try to get as many people in the pipeline into the country as possible. We are already seeing historic numbers of illegal immigration under Joe Biden. Have you noticed something with the way the future Trump cabinet has been doing interviews? The nominees are mostly staying pretty silent. And the people who are up for consideration, who might not be tapped yet, most of them are not saying much. Maybe an op-ed pops up here or there. There's one exception, one big exception, and you guys tell me who it is. It's Tom Homan. The guy's going to be the border czar. He's out there everywhere. Why do you think he's out there everywhere? Because he is broadcasting to the world that we are closed. America is closed to illegal aliens right now. Not in 60 days. We're closed now. Now, is that the reality? I don't know if that's the reality. That's up to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I'm told some more walls getting built right now. That's nice, but that takes a bit to do. And now the issue is what happens at our ports of entry, the parole pipeline. That's the main problem. The main problem isn't between the points of entry, which, again, build the wall, of course. But it really is that people show up, announce themselves now, and then they still are allowed in the country. So, but Homan's saying we're closed. And what I love about this guy is he's fearless of the media. He doesn't care if he's judged. He just wants a sane border policy. Missing unaccompanied kids. It's embarrassment. It's a disgrace. And all of you should be outraged. And Biden is trying to get more people in. Blue collar workers, creating housing crises, bringing in drugs, raping the people. They are, not all of them, some of them are. And in the meantime, we're going to be told that Robert Kennedy is not equipped to run HHS. You'd be kidding me. We're losing track of unaccompanied children who are coming in here. All right, let's check in on Trump's cabinet. Matt Gaetz is out. I mentioned this briefly on yesterday's show. He said he doesn't plan to rejoin the Congress after withdrawing as Trump's pick for Attorney General. He showed up on my friend Charlie Kirk's show, also a Salem show. I've got this somewhere. Let's play this clip. Let's hear Matt Gaetz talking about himself.
As it relates to where the Senate was, Charlie, look, there were senators that had not gotten to yes. And what I can tell you is the movement was unidirectional. The more I got to talk to senators, the more they started to understand that these priorities of mine would bring the country together. They would get the Justice Department back on track. And frankly, they're going to be the priorities of the Trump administration under a fantastic Attorney General, Pam Bondi. I know what an immigration hardliner Pam Bondi is. I know that she's got no tolerance for the censorship. I know that she actually was part of the election integrity infrastructure in Florida that became the model for the country, and she can deliver that election integrity through our civil rights division. So it was more a matter of pace than anything, and the pace was just going to be too long for me. And with someone like Pam that we can put right there in that spot, we're going to be far more successful as an administration.
A few observations from this. First of all, don't you love how Gaetz still has got to get in front of a camera? I mean, he just got one of those personalities. I interviewed him in person one time, and you could just see how much he just loves it. He loves being in front of a camera. I got a feeling if any of you over the weekend film enough home movies, you keep the camera rolling long enough, I think Matt Gaetz will eventually show up and get in one of the shots. And looking sharp there. He's got the cool glasses on going. But it's interesting that he was already out there doing interviews. Good get for my friend Charlie. Not surprising. So here's the latest story that I heard, which may be totally false. This is an unconfirmed rumor, but this sounds like the most plausible from the second and third hand things I'm getting. But the latest thing, and this show from this point for the rest of the next 5 or 10 minutes, this is not going to be a G-rated show. I want to keep the shows family friendly. This will not be family friendly for the next few minutes. So I apologize for that. You could hit the 30-second skip button for a little bit, because I'm going to cover a couple of things that are not family friendly. But he was told that he was, let's say, physically amorous with 2 women at the same time. And one of the women was allegedly 17 years old. This is the big scandal that's going on. And Gaetz apparently was not, he was not concerned about this because she had a legitimate Florida driver's license that faked her age, but the driver's license was such a replica that was so perfect that he wouldn't know any better. I only smile because of the uncomfortable nature of having to relay some of these to you, but I don't want to keep you in the dark because that is what I'm hearing. And it's one of these things where if it was investigated long enough, then he's not going to survive a confirmation doing that. But the point is that this was not even just a fake ID. It was actually a real ID that was forged, and or fraudulent. And that's it. That's the scenario. And that's what I was told that he's concerned about. But I have no idea if that's true. I just thought it was what I was told was the most likely scenario. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But I want to make the point that if you are a man and you are at all powerful or would one day like to be powerful, never find yourself in a position where you need to get the ID card of someone that you might be intimate with. Okay? Lesson number 1 of the day. There's going to be a couple lessons today, but that is number 1. That if you're in that situation, just go elsewhere. Keep your zipper high and tight. Get out of the situation. You should not be asking young women for IDs if you want to be Attorney General. Now, if you want to be a congressman, maybe you can get away with it. But if you want to be Attorney General, do not find yourself in that situation. And that's all I'm saying here. Seems like a good piece of advice. Okay, speaking of, we're moving on to sex scandal number 2. I want to get them back to back. And I'll come back and say what a great pick Pam Bondi is. But I want to just make sure that we get to sex scandal number 2, with Pete Hegseth. So MAGA versus the swamp. This is the lead headline right now, Breitbart News, as we are recording the show. Regime ramps up war on Trump picks. With Gaetz gone, media moved to stop Hegseth and Gabbard, but particularly Hegseth. He's number 1, and it's the same issue as the zipper issues, guys. I've been saying this on the show. One of the most often points in the first dozen or so Alex Marlow shows I'm shocked by is the fornication getting the powerful men in trouble. It really does. I was thinking about, and I relayed a lot of the details somewhat awkwardly and uncomfortably on yesterday's show, which was sort of funny and cringe-inducing to listen back to it yesterday at the beginning of the show. But some of the details about what's alleged against Pete Hegseth, and the more you think about it, the more insane it sounds, that this woman who I guess convinced to go back to a hotel room with him, and then he had sex with her, and then she woke up the next day and she was staying there with her husband, and it just stayed out with Hegseth all night, and then had to go back to her husband. Then she was probably thinking, well, what do I tell him? I gotta say I was raped. That's the only move she had. What other moves did she have? She had no other moves. So then she goes to the hospital, she gets a rape kit, she accuses Pete, he pays her off so that she stays quiet so he can keep his job at Fox. It's just all logical. None of this strikes me as some sort of vicious sexual predator. It does strike me as someone with a zipper problem, which again, you want to be on the couch of Fox and Friends, maybe that's fine. If you want to run the Pentagon, maybe it's not fine, but maybe it is. I still think he's favored to get confirmed, and I think he should stand strong. I really do. Him having zipper problems has no bearing on whether or not he'll be good at draining the swamp. This is none. They're completely unrelated. I want swamp drainers first because I care about this country. I don't care about Pete Hegseth's personal life. But this is a great example of men do not go out and sleep with married women at conferences. Not a good move, because what's their next move? It's going to be to accuse you of stuff. They're going to have regret, and they're going to try to come up with an excuse to justify their bad behavior. And a lot of that is going to be pointing at you. They're going to say, you're the bad guy, you're the perpetrator, you're the infiltrator. And then you're going to have years of headaches for one night of probably not that much fun, a little bit of fun. Highest recommendation, as young as you can, start dating for marriage and try to get a happy marriage and stay in the marriage. That's it. Sorry if it's hard to hear for some of you. It's just so important. You will never have these problems if that's your life. Easier said than done. It's hard work, even in the best of marriages, but so far superior to this. Can you imagine how bad Hegseth must be beating himself up right now? He must be absolutely kicking his own ass right now. All could have been avoided, all of this. And he might lose out on the dream job over it. I think he should stand his ground, and I think he could do an amazing job if he gets through, and I hope he does. But it is when you're rich and powerful, stuff can go to your head, and you feel like you can get away with stuff you cannot get away with. So, but the story sounds he does not sound like a rapist. There is no pattern. It's a Jane Doe. The person won't come out and say it on the record. Seems like she was trying to CYA so she could save her marriage. I will go back to Pam Bondi because I want to endorse the pick. It's a good pick. And not just from me, I talk to people very high up who will eventually be in the next Trump administration, get their reaction off record. So they are honest with me. And they cite her as great. 18 years as a prosecutor, 8 as Attorney General of Florida. That's 2,000 employees. It's the second largest GOP-run Attorney General's office behind Texas. So that makes her a top-notch pick. One of my concerns about Gaetz, even though I thought it would have been great. I mean, Gaetz could have been super great. But one of my concerns was Congress office is much smaller. And it's nice that Bondi runs 2,000 people because the DOJ has 115,000 people. That is not a joke, to quote Joey the Biden. So 150,000, a lot of people. So it's the Merrick Garland's done such a bad job, partially because he was not qualified for the job. He's running a small office as a circuit judge. So, I mean, you have 9 employees, 3 maybe, I don't know. Then he goes to have 115,000. So we got to do some swamp draining. I'm hoping she's a swamp drainer, but she's worked closely with Trump in the past. She's great on TV. She's worked with conservative media, which we need. She's going to get confirmed. She'll skate through also. So there's no downsides. She's strong as a prosecutor, solid pick. She's not been in the federal government, so that does make me wonder about the swamp draining. And that's kind of why I dug Gaetz, and that's why Gaetz was shocked me, just like it shocked so many of you guys. I'd not heard his name float at all when he was picked. But I got on board very quickly because of the swamp draining potential. So with Bondi, I feel like that is, I'm more nervous about the swamp draining, but other than that, A+. All of this is why we can do these stories at Breitbart News. 15 times liberals became dangerous and unhinged after Trump's landslide victory. We're still winning, guys. I'm seeing some too much negativity from the right. I saw some show that was talking about how we're still at wartime. I mean, to some degree, yeah. I mean, Bob Casey just conceded yesterday. in Pennsylvania. They tried to steal that election. So, but congrats again to Dave McCormick. That race was called a long time ago. But Mark Elias, et cetera, they were trying to lawfare that thing into oblivion until we would submit to them somehow. We weren't going to do that. We know the drill at this point. But that's a good one. But yeah, of course, they're going to try to stop our picks, and we got to fight through. But it is still time to rejoice and to enjoy watching the left's heads explode. We've got some footage of this. All right, producer Misty has dutifully pulled a couple fresh examples for you to enjoy. Let's play this one that we've labeled here on the show, Threats Lib.
And people of color and poor people and gay people and all the people that I care about aren't going to be safe in America. Neither the fuck are you guys. Just because you won doesn't mean we don't remember who the fuck you voted for. You're not in the clear. And just please don't test your gangster on me, because you will end on a stretcher, gone forever. So serious. Nobody can talk to me unless you want to swing. If you want to fight, text me, call me, whatever.
That's crazy. I was told we were the violent ones. That's ridiculous, because that sounded like threats to violence. Interesting. Yeah, they're still melting. And why wouldn't they melt? We've taken everything from them. We're getting so many of their demographics. We've got all the cool kid cards now. And they announced that we were taking America's joy. Can I show you some joy? This is our incoming education secretary. This is a video, and those of you who are not subscribed on YouTube and Rumble, you're missing out because we do a great job producing the visuals for the show. You will hear it, but you will not get the full effect, because this is our incoming education secretary getting a pile driver. Okay, now this is going to be a stark contrast because we're just watching a lot of fun. I want to show you the nature of how the unhinged left is behaving in the wake of this election. Now, this one is not for the faint of heart. This is deeply disturbing and upsetting, but I think you need to know about some of these things that are happening. I'm going to play you this clip. This is from a local news report. Give this a listen.
I'm here on Tacony Street. Police today have identified all of the victims. At this house is where they found 47-year-old Erin Abramson and her 15-year-old son, Jacob Nephew. This is where police responded to an initial welfare check called in by a City of Superior employee. Abramson was a city employee herself, working as a leader in the Environmental Services Division. It was one of her coworkers who called in the check, realizing it was unlike her to not be at work. When police first entered the residence, they found Abramson and Jacob Nephew deceased with what appeared to be multiple gunshot wounds. Investigators also went to the house of a possible suspect named by the reporting party, 46-year-old Anthony Nephew on West 6th Street. After setting up surveillance outside of the residence, police entered with a drone. They located two more victims with apparent gunshot wounds, the wife and son of the suspect. The wife, 45-year-old Catherine Nephew Ramsland, was an art teacher at Lake Superior College. Her body was discovered along with 7-year-old Oliver Nephew. Officers then located suspect Anthony Nephew with what appeared as a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family, friends, and loved ones of the 4 victims in this tragic incident. We also want to send our condolences to both the Duluth community and Superior community, as this is a senseless and tragic event.
Erin Abramson, the first victim, was in a previous relationship with the suspect, and the second victim, Jacob Nephew, was their child. There's still no known motive for the murders at this time, but police have noted what they called a history of mental health for the suspect.
Certainly mental health is playing a factor, anyone who murders their whole family, but the alleged murderer was someone who, and this was absent from the report, had apparently posted a number of attacks on Donald Trump during the 2024 election. New York Post found some of those. So this is in Duluth, Minnesota, murders his ex-partner, their son, and another son. Wow. So his wife, his ex-wife, 2 kids. Just unbelievable. I'd say it's hard not to let it wash over you for a second. Obviously, mental health is a part of this. This is not something that is a commonplace thing in this country that this happens, but they're the ones who kept telling us we were Nazis. And they can't handle the election, then you do a quadruple murder. Okay. Man, that's tough. That's a bummer. It's a bummer. So in the Congress right now, we're seeing a major battle brewing, and it is over men using women's bathrooms. We have got this man who impersonates a woman who is, again, am I trying to get none of these shows to thrive on YouTube? I guess that's my thing. There's a Democrat-elect, Sarah McBride, formerly a man, now acts as a woman, and says out of respect, he's going to use whatever bathroom he's assigned. So I guess that's the men's room for now. Said that I would like my grace to contrast with the grandstanding that we're seeing right now. I would like my approach of respecting everyone to contrast with the disrespect that we are seeing right now. I'd like people to see my competence in governing contrast with their chaos. This is a good tactic. You got to give it up when they have a good tactic. So AOC will do his dirty work for him. Let's play AOC lashing out Nancy Mace, who's led the charge against allowing McBride to use the women's room.
What Nancy Mace and what Speaker Johnson are doing are endangering all women and girls. Because if you ask them, what is your plan on how to enforce this? They won't come up with an answer. And what it inevitably results in are women and girls who are primed for assault because people are going to want to check their private parts in suspecting who is trans and who is cis and who's doing what. And so the idea that Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator? Who would that be? In order, because she wants to suspect and point fingers at who she thinks is trans is disgusting.
She's not asking for anyone to drop trow, Alexandria. Oh, she's the content queen. Can't get enough of her. Yes, I hope she always wins. I hope she's always in the Congress. Not beyond that, but we can sacrifice the one seat for all the content she delivers for us. No, there's no request by Nancy Mace for people to drop trow. We just don't want people with penises in the women's room. Not that hard. Here's Nancy Mace.
It is offensive that a man in a skirt thinks that he's my equal, like that his challenges are the same as mine. They're not. And he's forcing his genitals into women's restrooms, into dressing rooms, into locker rooms. It's sick. It's twisted. And here you showed that clip, the left celebrating mental illness. That's what they're doing. And it's crazy. And that's why one of the many reasons that Kamala lost this election. They haven't learned a thing.
Yeah, she was doing another event and she got interrupted and then she fired back. God loves him, but his penis is not going to be in my bathroom. I mean, again, I would have probably been a little bit annoyed by this 3 weeks ago because this does feel a little bit like a distraction overall. But I will say that now, this particular moment that we're in past the election, I'm happy to see it. It's enjoyable. We got to start taking a stand on this stuff. And knowing that Trump's coming in there and he might not tolerate woke corporations trying to enforce the anti-science trans nonsense. It's not just anti-science, it's anti-women. Like, why are women forced to deal with this one man's mental illness? I just don't think that's fair to all the women in the Congress. All right, we're going to do something fun on the show. This might work well, this might not work well, but what's going on for the extremely online folks, I want to articulate that because everyone is completely obsessed with this video of Jaguar, the new Jaguar ad. They've rebranded and they've gone woke. Everyone is thinking going woke, going broke. Everyone's swinging back. We're talking about the NFL. They went from kneeling during the national anthem to doing the Trump dance. I was doing the Trump dance with my 6-year-old today. He had to get a couple of fillings and we were on the way back and I was celebrating with him. We were doing the Trump dance. It was good. It was really fun. So Jaguar is going the other way. They're going to go woke now. And let's see how they do. I've not actually seen this. I've heard a lot about it. But we're going to watch this together. Those of you who are watching, there's a lot of visuals. So YouTube and Rumble for that. Here we go. Okay, so far, this is United Colors of Benetton style, neon, lots of colors, lots of diverse faces, androgynous women who may as well look like men, and a lot of culturally appropriate hairstyles, for lack of a better expression. Let's keep playing. Live vivid, it says. Delete ordinary. This looks like a trans now officially. This does look like a man. This woman is very mannish, if not a man, in a dress, got a sledgehammer, was just standing on the wall. Okay, so which is kind of cool. I can't do that. I got to stand on the floor. Copy nothing, it says. Looks like outer space, and then Jaguar with the sans serif font. Got some new font going. I'm sure that's been approved by all the consultants. There's not a single car in this ad. And people are branding it as woke because it is, and I just don't know how this is going to sell a single car. They're doing all the green stuff. So so much of the world, we just saw the 4,000 layoffs coming to Ford, a lot of those in Europe over EVs, too many EVs. They don't want to produce as many. And now we're just seeing Jaguar lean so heavily into electric vehicles and apparently into wokeness. I wonder how long this ad's been in the works and if they saw the election results and just, you know, that America, we set the trend of the world that we do. And if we're in a certain spot where the pendulum's swinging back on the trans nonsense and they just do a neon trans thing where the people all have the same face, no one smiles. We can no longer have traditional elements of beauty in society. Probably worth a much longer show to discuss that, but that's all gone by the wayside. All right, fine with me. Whatever, good for them. Let them do them. There's plenty of other cars you can get, and I'll tell you, there'll probably be a lot more. Given the fact that Trump is going to be back in charge of the economy. I told you, I have bought 2 cars from foreign manufacturers that were manufactured in the United States, and it's all thanks to Donald Trump because we like our SUVs. These foreign companies will come in, build a factory, employ Americans, make them here. I can drive them. Super cool. Love that stuff. All this Jaguar nonsense. Go see how that works for you guys. All right. The new Bud Light is what it's being likened to. All right, Hope Reborn, Republican economic expectations soar to highest levels since the Trump administration. We have a Breitbart News. Good stuff. Clown show over the International Criminal Court. You know, this is where they got Jack Smith, by the way. And more on this later as we have some time to do some deep dives into lawfare and the full lawfare apparatus. But Jack Smith, famous from all the Trump prosecutions, et cetera, that he was originally, when Trump won the first time, he went over to The Hague to do the International Criminal Court, which is a kangaroo court. Can't enforce anything. And the ICC is, I guess, convicted Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. They've issued arrest warrants for them. Such a big joke. So, and as we noted, our Breitbart Twitter, both stunning and brave, which is, of course, ironic. Trudeau wants to arrest him. Trump says he's readying a pushback. So that's good. So we got to help support the fighters, support the warriors out there. All right. Over the Breitbart Fight Club today, John Nolte has his review of Gladiator 2. I will note that he says it's pale, contrived, but it's got some decent action, but not as good as the remake. Interesting. The preview looked good, but I got very suspicious when Denzel said there was a gay kiss that they cut out of it. I thought that made me think maybe they don't know what they're doing if they have to shoehorn that stuff in there for attention. But a big weekend at the box office. Always interesting to see if the box office is ever going to recuperate, because it can. If Hollywood just gets focused and makes stuff people really want to see, then it will do better. But they don't do that. They like to make stuff that fits some sort of an agenda. But also there's a movie, Wicked, which is based off of a hit Broadway play. And that should also do big business. A pretty good play. I've seen it. Some amazing songs in it. But there are reports that Wicked fans are already ruining the screenings by singing along. So theater kids are already ruining Wicked, which that would be very funny to me if that was the case. I want people to be able to have a nice theatrical experience so we could revive that in the country. I think it's nice when we have the theatrical experience as part of American life. But if theater kids are just going to show up and sing, that is not why I go to the movies, to hear that. All right. Aloha at alexmarlow.com. If you want to be a part of the show, the most interesting emails that I got over the last few days have been pot roast related. I confided in the audience that I treated myself to a pot roast to celebrate a couple of days of taking care of all 4 children, getting all my work done with no childcare. And so I made myself the pot roast and I overcooked it. It had the flavors were amazing, but it had the consistency of a burnt steak, beyond well done. And I solicited the audience's advice. I got a lot of pot roast recipes sent, but I think Amy in Pennsylvania had maybe the best email on this front. So I want to read this. And she starts with a question. Do you think Matt Gaetz' move is to plug him into the Senate, Rubio's seat? I can't understand why he would withdraw so quickly, even if there is smoke. He seems pretty shrewd. I don't think he'll get the Rubio seat. I think DeSantis will pick someone else. And I also don't understand why he withdrew so quickly. I thought he would hang on. So he must have gotten tapped on the shoulder by Trump or someone at that level or close to Trump's level and said, we can't do this. It's just too much. Yeah, he did seem shrewd. I'm shocked that he dropped out as quickly, and I will report more when I know. Regarding pot roast, a very hard cut to cook in the oven. I cook it with any crock pot recipe, but don't add the veggies until the end. It falls apart and everyone loves it. Start in the AM, and by dinner time, it will be fabulous. You set it and let it go. As a working mom, I swear by crock pot meals, and everyone loves them, even though they are a little white trash, LOL. There's nothing white trash about a good pot roast. No, that is any well-cooked meat is not white trash. No, it's I think this is what I was missing. So I threw it in the Dutch oven. Some of you sent me Dutch oven recommendations. I cooked it in the Dutch oven, okay? So I think this was part of it, is that I'm a barbecue guy. So when you cook something really slow, then it is when you get to that super high temperature, like 195 degrees, 200 degrees plus, all those little fibers inside of the muscle start breaking down, and it starts getting that really delicious falling apart texture that you get with a good pulled pork or a brisket. And that's what I thought I was going to be able to create with this pot roast recipe. And I did not. And I think that's the main thing that I'm missing. So maybe the slow cooker and throwing it on all day, maybe that's the way to do it. So I got to think about that. And she also noted the Swedish fish are fine. The people who do the hating do not have 4 toddlers and don't know the zone defense. Yes, I'm on zone defense. Even with the nanny in the house, it's 4-on-3. So with no nanny, it's 2-on-4. Sometimes it's 4-on-1, as it was earlier in the week. So she notes the first defense is the cup of strawberries. The second is healthy cereal. The third are puffs, and the fourth is candy. This is so well stated. This is going to end up being a parental advice show because Amy's teaching me something, how to think through things appropriately. Because that's right. Those are the moves. And when you're trying to record a podcast for a very influential audience, and all that's standing in the way between you and completing your task is one tantrum by Duchess Marlowe, then a few Swedish fish, if that could ameliorate her, then you're going to take that every time. All right, that is the show for this week. We will have some shows for you next week. Probably, I'm thinking 3, at least, for Thanksgiving week. And who knows? Let's see how busy the news gets, because we can record at any point. But all of you who subscribe, like the content, leave a comment, send me an email at aloha@alexmarlow.com. We'll incorporate those every week. But that helps us grow, those 5-star reviews. All the usual stuff, but it really does mean a lot because you get momentum, and momentum is big because we're trying to get off to as fast a start as possible with the Alex Marlow Show. Don't forget to check out the Breitbart Fight Club. Thank you to producer Misty for all the hard work this week, and we hope all of you have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next time.